Welcome to Aethair Talks, where we explore the intersection of technology, policy, and the air we breathe. I am Vasilios Nassis. In each episode, we dive into insights, innovation, and ideas that are shaping the future of environmental intelligence, from air quality and data to regulation and real world impact. This is where meaningful conversations begin. Today, I'm joined by Khoa Nguyen, Commercial Director at BaSystemen. We discuss the challenges and opportunities of expanding across European markets, the impact of strict health and safety regulations, and how high quality instrumentation is helping industries, governments, and communities to create safer and healthier environments. Hi, Koa. Thanks for joining Aethair Talks. Welcome to our podcast.
Hi, Vasilios. Thank you for having me in beautiful Philadelphia here today.
Well, thank you for coming from a little bit far away from Amsterdam, right?
Yeah, correct. I flew from Amsterdam. I live a little bit up north, roughly like 2 hours driving from. But yeah, Amsterdam, Philadelphia is a good flight. So it took me a little over 8 hours to get here.
It was a good trip, I hope. So now tell us a little bit about you and your company and what you guys doing in Netherlands.
Sure. I'm the chief commercial officer within our company named BaSystemen. In English, you would translate that to the better high quality health and safety instrumentation company. We've been doing that since '09, whereas I joined the company in 2012 and joined the board in 22. And together with my partner Sebastian, we run an operation of 24 people in total, including ourselves. And we try to make not just the Netherlands or Holland, how you want to call it, but also Belgium and Luxembourg, just a safer and healthier workplace for the people that work there. And we do that by supplying high quality instrumentation. We've always been doing that since the start of the company, supplying it by either purchasing, sales, renting it out for short and midterm projects. And we provide service and calibration facility as well. So we have multiple technicians in-house that can make sure that the equipment that is acquired by the customer is well maintained, and he can trust the results that he has been getting from that piece of kit.
So now you're coming from a market or from a continent, I should say, that is traditionally heavily regulated,
Yeah.
right? So from all points of view, whether it has to do with data or with environmental conditions.
Sure.
So having said that, I mean, operating from Netherlands, okay, as you said, you guys have expanded to Belgium
Yep.
also, right?
Correct.
So how do you scale a company? How easy is to scale a company? In a European market that is so fragmented,
Sure.
in so many ways.
Sure. So yeah, that's tough for sure. So we started in the Netherlands, where we all speak the same language. We have our same values and the way we operate together as a community and businesses. Moving across borders introduces loads of challenges. Um, I think you would face some of those challenges in the US as well, but you don't have the language barriers that we would face in Europe. We're a bit lucky because if we go further downwards, we would get into Belgium, and half of Belgium has Dutch or Flemish, they would say, have the same language as we speak. So that's going to help us out. If you get a little bit more down and you come into the Wallonie part, it starts to be more French. So you should be able to speak French to effectively and in a personal way communicate with customers and other stakeholders. And yeah, just bringing your best Dutch or English is not gonna do it. So yeah, that is tough for sure. And I always try to explain to other people that if we were to compare to the US, Europe is like the US. We're a European nation, but all of our states and those are
As
technically
different
the
countries.
countries
Yeah.
exactly have all their own tax system, all have their own language, all have their own way of working together. Luckily, with the euro, we most of us
It has helped out a lot. Yeah.
we have the same way of payment, so that works. But still, things are very much different. Also, how health and safety regulations work, even though we have like this main umbrella where we can derive standards and action levels from, it could still differ very much per country.
So in the markets that you operate, speaking of those regulations, now obviously in Europe, all European countries, they have to essentially meet at least the minimum of the EU directive. Otherwise, there is some fines associated with that and so on.
Correct.
Which some countries, they're more than happy to pay them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but given that you have those standards in place, is Holland one of the most strict kind of guided markets? Or
Sure.
I will think that Central Europe, it's more particular about things like
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah. So I would say the Netherlands, Holland is for sure in the epicenter of Europe and Western Europe in specific. Yeah, we like to do our things in a good and proper manner in ways that we have agreed upon with each other. And how it typically works in the EU and Europe is indeed we have directives, and all the members of the EU can implement that as a one-on-one copy. So it's going to be completed the same, or they can alter a little bit based on whatever reasoning they have. But it should always be a little bit more stringent. So it's yeah, again, like you said, the European directive is going to be like the bare minimum, and it can only get, let's say, more tight from there.
So, in specifically in your country or the countries that you guys operate, um, what is your typical market? And specifically, in US, for instance, you have the construction sector.
Yeah.
It's a big, big market. You have citywide monitoring for wildfire monitoring, which also in Europe is a big problem.
Yeah.
So your typical clientele,
Hmm.
what is it, and
Sure.
how do you serve them?
So I would say we originated from general industry, doing a bunch in chemical, oil and gas, natural gas in specific because we have natural gas in Holland, and oil we do not. But then still we have some refineries. We still have our mid and downstream operations in the North Sea as well. So that is how our company has originated, truly from a safety perspective, and started moving to health, occupational health, industrial health, growing that through various sectors. If you can think about food and beverage, pharmaceutical / medical, and nowadays, yeah, day by day, a little bit more in governmental, and that's because we have been introducing environmental clients as well. So we see that there's a huge growth potential, not just for us as a company to grow, but to really make a difference. So yeah, it's very diverse. We see construction as a sector that requires, I would say, a lot of guidance and compliance, and we're happy to help them out and do so as well. But it's just really tough because we have like many SMEs, small companies, and typically it's the big guys that will take all the heat and will also get the exposure from from companies like us to help them out. But if you look into the SME space, that's typically where the big differences can be made in terms of health, safety, and also environment.
So now, from the type of equipment that you guys offer, or from the type of monitoring that the customers are doing, are we talking more about survey type of monitoring or kind of long-term fixed type of deployments?
So there again, things have been going through an evolution. So it started truly with a lot of portable monitoring, manual operations. So it would be your typical sound level meter. It would be your gas monitor. That was truly important to assess a workplace or an environment. And with the upcoming technologies and introducing cloud, IoT, smart sensors, we see that it's way more common to extend that measurement duration, as we know that the longer we measure, the more data points we can get reliability and predictability out of that by nature. Yeah.
So obviously, based on the discussions that we already had, you have seen, the position that we have taken in this industry as a company, that, via the Theamis product line, we support all the existing, high-end instruments from different OEMs.
Yeah.
They can plug into a single device and make them essentially from not connected to fully connected devices to our cloud and then access the data on environment. But then we also have this new wave of products, such as the Pro, which is, on the more affordable side, but without jeopardizing sensing quality, that they're made for larger distributions. Okay. Do you see this technological edge and, being able to cover the sort of like middle range type of devices,
Sure.
the sort of non-reference devices,
sure.
in other words, to dominate that
Sure.
sector?
Yeah. So I'll try to be unbiased,
Yeah.
but what I feel like is that what you guys are doing is game changing, starting with the TMS, which is a very smart and comprehensive device that is not out there in the field. We feel like definitely in Europe we can have lots of potential there, because yes, all those traditional type of instruments are already out there, and instead of getting rid of them, dispose them, we can make them smart.
People can make a lot of investment.
Exactly.
You cannot just teach them.
Exactly. And then if you come back to how Europeans act and how the Dutch act is, we're sometimes mistaken for frugal. I would say that it's more about we're very selective and we're very careful with how we spend our money. Because, for example, the EU loves to invest in new technologies, in projects that can arise to new insights. But we want to make sure that we spend the money at the right place.
Now, on the other hand, though, Europe is also, you have all these directives and a lot of funding for the states that you don't actually see, in US, for instance, or other markets.
Yeah, correct.
So
Correct. So there again, I feel like frugal is not the right word. I would say if the product or the service is right, Europeans are very happy to pay for it, and I think TMS is one of them. So yeah, definitely excited and looking forward to what we can do with that. Talking about the Pro, that is going to be like your middle ground type of product. That's great because we have our reference devices out in the field owned by governmental agencies, and those are all needed. They're very expensive, require high maintenance, but that's truly our reference and what we should do as EU countries to comply. Then on the other hand, we see a wave of very affordable, even considered cheap devices that are being built and put out in the field where we most of the times don't really know how they act on the long term. And we see those as really indicative devices. And sometimes that can work out, but most of the times it also doesn't work out. And
Yeah,
in that middle space,
and actually, I want to ask you about this because you said you guys are going to be operating, or you are operating in Belgium,
correct,
right?
yeah,
So, um, now Belgium, I think, was the very first European state that kind of enforced, or is in the phase of enforcing, at least CO2 monitoring on all schools and public buildings.
yes,
Now, one of the big problem typically, though, is with this type of directives is the implementation.
yeah,
Okay, the implementation because they typically don't have um, sort of a complete guideline about what products to use and how to make those choices.
yeah,
Like to me, for instance, if the concern is just CO2 and the solution to that is, oh, let's bring fresh air. Well, who's telling me that the fresh air is cleaner?
mm,
So essentially, you may be, instead of solving a problem, you may be intensifying the problem. But more importantly, is how do you make even correct decisions
sure,
when the instrument
yeah,
may not even meet the minimum guidelines?
and that is tough. There are some non-profit or semi-non-profit organizations in Belgium in this particular instance that have done studies and have looked at, oh, what type of CO2 monitors are out there in the market, and they will rank them. So you can sort them on price, type of sensor, measuring range, and all of that. But then still, there's a lot that people just buy online in times of, I would say, hecticism, crisis, like for example in COVID, people just buy whatever is available and at their disposal, and it could introduce, some false insights or misleading insights without really contributing to what we all want, and that is safer and cleaner air. Yeah.
So now, obviously, one of the next big waves is AI, implementation of AI.
Yeah.
Right. So again, you got to see what we have done with Noesis GPT, and actually, the Pro is the very first device I believe on the market that it was built with AI implemented even at the hardware level.
Yes.
Okay, so um, how flexible do you think EU will be, or the markets that you are operating specifically, on having decision making relied on AI?
Sure. Very interesting and sensitive question. First of all, it's again super impressive, but very very much game changing what you guys have been doing with the GPT. If you reflect that to European market, where we see that uh, uh, we have troubles finding the right people for the right job roles. We're typically working under capacity, especially if you look at environmental agencies. If you look at governmental positions, it's really tough to have enough of the right skilled and trained people to do the job. In those occasions, uh, it would be very valuable to use something like machine learning and AI to help you go through that data. And it's a little bit counterintuitive where Europeans and the Dutchies in particular, we like to have our own voice. So we don't really take things for granted that easy. Um, so yeah, we rather like to see things ourselves, do things ourselves, because then we know that it's been done well. But in this time and day where we have the need for more skilled people, this could be time reduced, and this could be way more efficient in assessing what is happening not only at the workplace but in the near environment, in the ambient environment, and get you so much faster to, okay, what can we truly do to mitigate what is happening out there?
Yeah, and actually, from our own calculations, especially when you have shortage of people with expertise, we have seen that implementing these tools can save over 1,000 hours annually per person, per expert.
Yeah.
So now essentially you can have that expert look much more,
Exactly.
many more projects, or evaluate many more projects, and kind of pay attention more to the things that they really require attention, right?
Yeah.
So so I think that's really the big thing that we see with AI, and more importantly is identifying patterns
Yeah.
that will require scientists before
Exactly.
to process this information. And speaking of patterns, obviously Netherlands is, the European country that is probably going to be more affected from climate change than
Oh yeah.
perhaps any other one, okay, because of the
Yeah.
position that he has. And
Yeah.
so what is the more important elements that will affect, let's say, the environmental conditions, or that they should be the more important parameters to be monitored,
Hmm.
in your opinion,
Okay. Yeah.
based on the rising levels of
Yeah. So by nature, we have to be good with water. There have been occasions in history of the country that there were big floodings, and we don't want that to happen again. But if climate change continues to do what it's doing right now, it will come to a point that our whole country can be flooded. So that's why, yeah, by nature, we're good with water. We're good with building dikes and bridges and protect ourselves from the elements. But in the end, that is not going back to the root cause, right? So we understand as no other that a clean and sustainable future is the only way. Uh, we are very thoughtful of the materials we use in our houses and businesses, what type of fuels we use, but we're also aware of what greenhouse gases can do. And we have methane mitigation or reduction programs being launched everywhere.
and is that only for kind of commercial operations, or just across the board?
I would say that's for businesses, right? So, yeah, even like a wastewater treatment company that is also producing biogas and such is really keen on how can we make sure that we don't leak any of the methane or whatever greenhouse gas into the atmosphere, and even at a personal level, households get somewhat incentivized to be very sustainable because our gas prices are super high. Natural gas is expensive. It's for us also as a country limited. So everybody is has their own reasoning of, okay, how can we make sure we don't use and consume as much, and also how we not pollute as much as we've been doing in the past. And yeah.
So would you say that ESG in Holland, for instance, is implemented all the way down to a household, or rather than just businesses?
Well, fractions of it for sure, and it can have different reasons why that happens. So for one, it can be governmental taxes, but it can also be just education. Like there's a lot of education around sustainability. We have many university programs about sustainability. We're obviously close to Brussels, epicenter of the EU, so we have a good position there as well. And I would say, yeah, most of the people living in our country are at least aware of, what contributes in a positive and negative way to a better future. Yeah.
So it's environmental monitoring essentially in Holland is of existential importance.
Oh yes. Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
so uh So having said that, does the government has deploy a lot of stations that do like smart city monitoring,
Sure.
or is still kind of relied on old methods of taking samples every so often? In other words, is the density of devices high or?
I think there's room for a higher density. So for one, we have all our mandatory monitoring stations with reference equipment in there. We have a couple of smart city projects that are EU funded, and local government cities are trying to understand what does that big bulk of data mean to us and what can we do with that. I think we have something there to improve on, and um, to be able to do that, we need reliable new technologies that are affordable. So there again, for example, if the Pro unit that is right in the middle ground, you get something that is of high quality, near reference, at a decent price, but with an unbelievable amount of insight with the AI model and environment is important for us, and that's one of the reasons why we think we should be huge advocates of that.
Yeah. No, I strongly believe that too. And I think that having large data sets, that they're actually good data sets,
Yeah.
can help you understand patterns and even prevent things
Yes.
way before they become
Oh
of
yes.
significant importance.
Yes.
Right. So how do you see now as a business operator in more than one countries? How do you see the European market? Kind of growing in the next 5 years or so, moving on into the future,
Sure.
around environmental monitoring, environmental uh, directives and regulation. What kind of role is going to play, and how's that going to affect, you think, the growth of Europe?
I think it's going to only increase in monitoring intensity, and that will happen over the next couple of years. We've just had our new EU air quality regulation being announced, really again emphasizing the need for monitoring on specific substances, and that always takes time to implement in each member country of the EU. And there again, everybody wants to have its say over that, so it's gonna take some years of, let's say, uh, uh, political discussions to really have everything said and done. But I think as a company for ourselves, we are prepared for that, and we're ready to assist companies and governmental organizations where we can. Um, and that's going to be all over Europe for sure. Um, some countries, we have our potential risk with water. We recently had in France and in Spain, we had big fires. Drought is also one of the results of climate change, and everybody understands. So we need to do something.
Yeah, actually, on that point, it's very interesting. I mean, we've seen it here in US, that the crisis does not necessarily have to happen in your own country.
No.
You're right. So, I mean, there's wildfires in Canada.
Yes.
You know, the air comes down here, in United States, and essentially, you know, you can see the whole half of the country essentially being on alert
Yeah.
type of mode some of the days, especially during the summertime. So same thing happens in Europe,
Yeah.
right? You have wildfires in Europe, whether it's in
Yeah.
Spain or whether it's in, my home country, Greece, and the smoke will travel,
Exactly.
to other areas. So
And I feel like actually during those types of occasions, and by no means we would want them to appear to demonstrate things, but people can see the smoke. People can even sense the pollutants. So all the air quality safety will go bonkers, right? So with those types of occasions, people understand, hey, air quality is really a thing. We need to make sure that that our living environment is as good as it should be.
Yeah, and actually, as we both know, the things that when you see things, then it's really bad.
Yes.
But even more dangerous is the things that you don't see,
Correct.
that they just floating around, and people continuously inhale them. So
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for taking the time today to be here with us, and I look forward to many more discussions, and visit us again to our podcast.
Yeah. Likewise. Thanks a lot for having me.
Thank you, Koa.